That guy over there is Doug Kaplan, producer extraordinaire. This guy right here, I'm Doc Reno from multiple iHeartRadio stations, rock stations, and classic rock stations all across the country. And this is the Ultimate Rock Podcast. Let me tell you what you can expect and why this podcast is different from all the others. I've been in radio most of my life. I'm a big fan of rock and roll. I do rock radio. And each episode, I'll be here with my co-host, author, historian, involved in music, radio, television, you name it. A podcast doesn't do this guy justice. Look him up on Google. I'll just tell you that. My co-host and my close friend, Denny Somack, who has been hosting and producing rock radio shows for most of his career. And between the two of us, we've had the opportunity to meet, interview, and enjoy performances by the greatest artists of all time. And unlike other programs, we're going to present the stories, and you will have a chance to hear from the artists themselves. That's what's so cool about the Ultimate Rock Podcast. And we're going to bring you the stories. You'll hear it from the people we talk about. And I think the best way for us to get this thing going here is to jump right into today's episode. And Denny, we're going to kick things off with...
Okay. Hey, Doc. Well, I thought for this show, I realized, wait a minute, there's an anniversary that we want to mention. It was 40 years ago, September 25th, 1980 to be exact, that John Bonham of Led Zeppelin passed away. Now, the band was about to embark on a North American tour in 1980. Doc, did you have tickets?
I did have tickets, and I didn't know what was going to happen like everybody else. You know, they were even on the radio speculating like, okay, does this mean the breakup of the band? Are they going to find another drummer to go on tour? So I was really bummed out because I've never seen Led Zeppelin in concert. And they were coming to Cleveland, my hometown, and I think within months. And I was so excited to go. It's my all-time favorite band, as you know. Yep. So, yeah, I did have tickets.
Yeah, and you heard about it, Bonham's death, on the radio.
Yes. The great thing about Cleveland, it's a great rock town. The Rock Hall's there for a reason. And multiple rock stations to listen to. And at the time, I was listening to Kid Leo on MMS in Cleveland. And we do have the report,
right? Is this what you heard? Tell me. I dug this out. Doug, go ahead.
The drummer was found dead in bed yesterday after a night of heavy drinking and hard rehearsal. An autopsy is set for today, but police feel that John Bonham may have died by choking to death after vomiting in his sleep. The first major Led Zeppelin tour in 3 years had been set to begin in just a couple of weeks, but it appears to have been canceled now. And there is a question as to what Bonham's death will mean to the group. British DJ Nicky Horn.
So many tragedies have befallen this band that I really think that this is the final, it must be the end.
But the record company will not speculate on the fate of the group.
You know, Denny, you sent me that clip like 4 or 5 days ago, and I told you before we started the podcast today that it gave me chills. I'm not trying to be corny, but no, hearing that again is just like, I feel like I'm a flashback 40 years ago. I was a teenager.
Gave me chills to find it, to say, I got to play this for Doc. He's not going to believe it.
Oh, my gosh, yeah. And even the Kid Leo stuff you sent me from MMS. But
I hate to, give ourselves a pat, but this is the kind of stuff we're going to be playing on this show.
Absolutely. That's why this podcast is going to be different, the Ultimate Rock Podcast. So,
the
Led Zeppelin stories.
Yeah, this is the actual podcast. He's regarded as one of the greatest drummers, as you know. And I know a lot of drummers who revere him. So
he's the drummer's drummer.
Yeah.
You know, when you and I can pipe in and talk about who we think should be, in the top 3 of drummers of all time. But when you have guys like, like an Alex Van Halen,
right,
naming his top drummers, a Dave Grohl, Bonham's always in the conversation.
So as you know, I collect Led Zeppelin stories.
Right.
And I thought I'd go to my John Bonham folder. I actually have a John Bonham folder. Pull out a few of the stories that I found. So the first is from Alex and Eddie Van Halen, who recall the first time they met John Bonham at an early point in their career. It was at the famous Rainbow Bar and Grill. For those of you not familiar with the Rainbow, it's a bar and restaurant on the Sunset Strip in West Hollywood, California. The Rainbow.
Legendary place.
Legendary. Founded in 1972, opened actually on April 16th with a party for Elton John. quickly became known as a hangout for rock stars and celebrities. It's legendary, filled with stories. We could probably do a whole episode on it. We might just do that. So anyway, when Van Halen was starting out, Eddie and Alex were in L.A., and like just about everybody else, they went to the Rainbow to go look for stars. And that's where they ran into John Bonham. And Eddie and Alex will tell you the story directly.
Yeah, we were playing at Gazzari's, where it was one of the first places in Hollywood that we played. And on one of the breaks, I went over to the Rainbow, which is kind of a hangout for musicians and
when they're in town.
Like a lot of IMAs, like I want to be, or I'm a model, I'm a dancer. So I seen this guy. He's pretty big, actually for his whatever. He doesn't look that big on film or on. Anyway, to make a long story short, I wanted to walk up to him and I said, "Hey, John, how you doing? Good to meet you." And the guy had a cast on his arm to here, and I went like this to shake his hand, and the guy took a poke at me. Well, I'm not quite as big. I'm just a little quicker than him. So he missed, and I said, Then he had a bodyguard who was about
came up to his waist.
Yeah.
I swear to God. Or was he
So anyway, that was my experience with Bonham, and it was a pleasure meeting him.
Wow, that's mostly Alex Van Halen talking there. The Van Halen brothers talking about meeting John Bonham for the first time in Los Angeles. Doc Reno, it's the Ultimate Rock Podcast with Denny Somack, our producer today. And always, Mr. Doug Kaplan over there taking care of business for us. And this episode is all about John Bonham and the 40th anniversary of his passing. Yes, even phone ringing you're going to get on this podcast here. We are recording this right now in September of 2020, and this is the anniversary month. John Bonham passed away on September 25th, 1980.
So I tried to find some good recollections, which wasn't hard to do since most people I spoke to are fans like you and I.
Right.
And here's the best example, because he is one of the greatest guys, and I'm sure you've seen him over the years. This is a great tale from Alice Cooper, who first met John Bonham and Led Zeppelin on the first tour, 1969, when they shared the bill with Zeppelin at once again, the Whiskey A Go-Go. Here's Alice.
I know I have a slide that somebody took that said Alice Cooper and Led Zeppelin this weekend only, and at the time, we were just local bands as far as we were concerned. We didn't even know Led Zeppelin was, who they were. It just was another band. We figured they were from the Valley or something, until we got there, and of course we saw Jimmy Page, and us being Yardbirds fans, realized that he was in the Yardbirds, and that was a big deal to us. So we were immediately humbled by that because of the fact that here was a Yardbird. Before that, nobody had really heard of Jimmy Page. He might have played some lead with the Kinks and things like that, or on sessions, but honestly, nobody had ever heard of him. So we got there, and they had British accents, which was kind of like surprise to us, and they were, we just sort of like said, well, who goes on first? Doesn't matter to us. We flipped a coin. I think we went on first the first night. They went on first the second night. But we really, really got along. They were just a great band. I mean, as far as we were concerned, they were far, a cut above a local band, that's for sure.
Yeah, Led Zeppelin's definitely not from the Valley. And the interesting thing about that clip right there is that's Alice Cooper talking about him and the band back in '69. So School's Out hadn't even come out yet.
Only the first album, yeah. I think. Pretty's for You, I think.
So we're only talking one album, Alice Cooper there. Now, Alice also had some thoughts. Great story, in my opinion. Thanks for grabbing this clip, too, Denny, on his take on Keith Moon and John Bonham. The comparisons between the two. Let's listen to that, Doug.
Bonham hit the drums hard. I don't think that Bonham hit the drums harder, though, than Buddy Miles or another drummer named Frosty from Lee Michaels. There was a couple of drummers that were just annihilated their drums. John was one of them, and he was a really good drummer. There's always going to be the controversy: who was better, Bonham or Keith Moon? well, that's it depends on whose corner you're in. I always thought Keith Moon was a more versatile drummer than John Bonham, but Bonham really hit the drums hard.
And as we talked about earlier, Denny, you and I both are great, but we both feel the same, that John Bonham and Keith Moon are totally different styles of drumming.
Absolutely.
They're just not the same drummer.
Yeah.
So anyway, speaking of drummers, Simon Kirke.
Yeah. Let's continue. This is the Ultimate Rock Podcast, so we're going to tell you the ultimate stories. Now, Simon Kirke, you know him from the band Free all right now, but of course you know him from Bad Company. He's still out there touring all the time.
Yes, absolutely.
But he has a very unique perspective to bring us, because Bad Company was managed by Zeppelin manager Peter Grant, and they were huge when they came out, with that first album. And Peter Grant was the first band signed to their Swan Song record label by Peter Grant. Anyway, Simon recalls the first time he met John Bonham. It wasn't there. It was when he was in the band Free. They just came over to New York. They just had a big hit called All Right Now, and they were coming over to tour for the first time. And, Simon, tell the story.
My very, very first memory of Bonzo was when Free came to New York, opening for Blind Faith, with four little kids. We were sat in this Irish bar on 8th and 48th. We just arrived. We were terrified because we'd been turned over by the customs in JFK, and we turned inside out because of our hair. So we're sitting there nursing our little Budweiser or whatever, and the barman comes over and he's got 4 pints of Guinness, and he puts them down on the table between us. He said, "That's from that guy over there, and it's Bonzo." And he goes, welcome to America, guys."
Wow.
Great.
What a great story.
Great way to be welcomed.
I was going to say, personally, though, I'd rather have the Budweiser than the Guinness, but that's a story for a whole nother day. Now, we have another story from, another funny story, actually, from Simon Kirke and Bonzo, Denny.
Yeah, I know Simon pretty well over the years, and I've seen him. And by the way, I don't know if you know, his daughter is a really well-known actress. She's on that show Girls, Jenna Simon. That's
I did
his
not
daughter.
know that. I'll
That's
have
his
to,
daughter. Yeah.
when we're done here, I'll Google her,
Anyway, I didn't want to get too far off the track. But Simon was actually the last person to play live with Bonham. And it turned out to be their final Led Zeppelin tour, which was the tour over Europe, 1980.
Okay.
The one that was about to come to America, obviously. Now, that tour ran from June 17th to July 7th, 1980. 10 of the tour's shows were performed in cities throughout West Germany, as well as one show each in Brussels, Rotterdam, Vienna, Zurich, and West Berlin. I want to tell you that after Simon told me the story that you're about to hear, I had to stop the interview. He had to compose himself. He actually started to tear up.
Really?
So,
Wow.
Listen to this.
I was at a loose end, and Bad Company had kind of gone on hiatus. So Peter called me up and said, "Listen, we're in Germany. Why don't you come and hang out with us for a few days? Come over from England." Oh, yeah, it's not long. It's like an hour flight. So I went over to Frankfurt, and they were playing there. And after the show, Bonzo came up to me out of the blue and said, "Hey, Kirke, would you like to play drums on Whole Lot of Love?" I said, "I'd love to," because no one had ever played with them on stage other than
Ronnie Wood.
Ronnie, okay. And it was an honor. And I thought, oh, God. I said, "John, I'd love to. Yes. Where do we rehearse?" He says, "In my bedroom in a hotel." What? I thought we'd have 2 drum kits or something in a studio. So I went up to his room, and he's got like 2 twin beds. And he sat on one bed, I'm sat on the other. We're facing each other, And with our hands on our knees and thighs, he ran me through all the different time changes. He says, "I start off, da-da-da-da." I said, "I know the beginning, John. I have heard it a few times." He said, "No, listen, pay attention." He was like a college professor. "Pay attention, because after 3 minutes, I stop, Jimmy goes, dung da dung da dung da dung da dung da dung da dung." Anyway, we ran through all this, and the next night they announced me, and I went on, and they put another kit next to John's, and I'm getting quite